Does it work? Nice. I'm glad to be back. I've been to WordCamp Norway for the past 3 years. And I even lived here for a year. So now this time I'm coming back from visiting from my home country in Latvia, in Riga. And every year in my life, in professional life, and in general, I try to try something new. And over the years, there's been many things, and some people don't get them done, like in the small projects. But I usually kind of try to stick to them and at least publish something out of them online, at least a WordPress plugin, because you can make a WordPress plugin for pretty much anything. So for this time, I'm going to be talking about the security and online identity. I think this is a very nice complementary talk to the one we had before, for those of you who were here. And with the regard that your identity and who you are in real life, it's my face. You know who I am because my face is on my website, you've seen me in the past. But what do we do when you cannot verify my outer appearance, right? So, and to do that, apparently you need to do a lot of this. It's very hard. That's the answer, basically. And that's why I'm talking about two-step security. With the idea is that one step is not enough, and I'm going to talk about both of these. So one is one step, multi-step, all that. And to get started, I wanted just to say how I got involved into this, because I said like every year I do a project. So last year, I decided to get a new passport, basically. And what they do when you get a new passport, you get your identity card, and that this piece of plastic. It has my face on it. It has my name and all that. But more importantly, this is the best technology we have at the moment to verify my identity online, or basically by digital means. To give you an example, Estonia, which is our neighboring country, they had the first election, general election, and they allowed e-voting or electronic voting using these cards in 2005. They got more than around 9,000 people using them to actually cast their vote. Last year, or it was a year before that, can you guess how many people voted using these cards instead of signing a paper, like in percentage of all the electorate? 30%. I'm mind blown. And I'm not sure if there's another country in the world that is doing it at the moment. Estonia is a very small country, so they have that advantage, but so are we, and pretty much Norway and a lot of European countries. But basically, I got this card, and it has this thing on the back, and I'm like, you can plug this in somewhere. What can I do? And just to give you an example, it turns out you can use this to authenticate to your WordPress site. So my WordPress blog, at the moment, I can take this, and it's going to know it's me. And I don't have to enter any password. This thing, to sign basically that request, I have to enter a PIN code. Sometimes the browser doesn't ask for it because I've authenticated it before. But just to give you an example of how awesome this thing is, does it work like that? No. Navigator. What is this? Do I have to exit and just show that? Okay. You see that? No, you don't. Can I drag it like that? Yes. Oh, this is going to be hard. I thought I could mirror here. Okay, I'm going to try it like that. So this is Chrome, your regular Chrome. Apparently I'm logged in. This is funny. So this is your standard WordPress login page. The difference here is that the password is filled in, but you don't need it. That's the nice feature of Chrome, that it does it. What I'm interested in is this here. it says login with EID, or electronic identity. The standard for this is, from what I understand, is shared among all the European countries. So in theory, this should work for everybody. And when I do that, it asks me, the browser now has done a handshake with the server, and the server said, okay, prove me this is Kaspars. And what it's doing is it knows what my card, it can check my identity profile that's on the card. So what I do is I select, that's me, that data is coming from the card, and where's the Wi-Fi? Come back on. Secure connection. I think the internet broke. This is what happens when you do a lot of demos, or want to do a presentation with demos. Oh no, that's the funny story. It's asking me for the PIN, but on the other screen. I was expecting. So that's the main premise now of this card, is that I'm proving by knowing this PIN that it's me. And you can take the card, but you're not going to know the PIN if you're not carefully looking, or you have a webcam there broadcasting it somewhere, which is my actual PIN. But I enter that. Oh, did it work? But I'm in. So, no passwords and nothing. So, thank you. That was a lot of effort with this browser thing happening on the other screen. And one more. Where is this now? I'm sorry about that. Okay. So, well, the important stuff is to get this straight. So you have authentication and authorization. These two principles are the kind of guiding stuff that is used throughout this talk, online and everywhere you go. And they might be confusing in a sense that they sound pretty similar. But the idea is that authentication is when you arrive at the hotel and they check that you are the one who made the reservation and you have that room available. And then when you go to your room, you can't go into every room. You have special rights given to that card that was given at the reception. So you can only enter that door. And that is example of basically the most primitive example of one-step authentication is your home keys. That's the only thing you need to access your home. If I steal them, I don't need to know a PIN to enter your door, or I don't need to even your keys if your window is open. And that is a very important lesson about the security of any system, is that the attacker is not going to use your most secure access method. They're never going to use my identity, or they can try and steal my identity card, but what they could do is rather just get access to my email and reset my password if I didn't have that second factor authentication enabled. So this is an example of one-step authentication. Two-step is when you know something, the PIN code in this case, or for your credit card, when you go and withdraw the cash for the ATM, you know the PIN code there. And when you have something actually. So in this case, it's this card. For the website, you might use a security key, which was also shown on the first one, or this card here that I used. So this is a common example. I have one actually from the time I was in Norway. My bank requires me to enter this number that I get here whenever I want to authenticate. And what they're doing is just they're trying to understand that my password, I wasn't forced to give up my password, that I actually have this device. So is the credit card and all that. But what you saw in the first example is there's the problem. It's a bad user experience. I mean, this bad. Because it was all over. There was a pin coming up and all that. So how do you solve it? So you have two things to solve. You have the first factor is the password. And this is an actual list from Gizmodo posted, 25 most popular passwords of 2015 are these. I don't know how many sites or people are using these, but the idea is that passwords are hard, and it's like it's getting in your way to actually doing something. When you go into a bank, you want to do banking. You don't want to enter 5 passwords and insert keys and do that there. So it's actually a user experience problem, as I said. And whenever you want to authenticate, you have to come up with this random number that only you know, and you have to remember it for every site that you have, right? So, and the device we're using to enter that password is this. So doesn't it make sense that you can make it easy for yourself? And just like, oh, go over the first line, use the other line. That's simple, right? So what people say, that's the wrong way of doing it. You should come up with something like that. And there's it's going to be hard, right? It's like 3 days, you can guess it. So if you could hit my server at 1,000 requests a second, and if I had that password and only my username, which is publicly known, it would take you 3 days to kind of brute force that. The comic you saw earlier, I skipped through it, past it, but the idea is that you should come up with something that uses like common words. I've looked at this slide for many times. I've looked at that comic many times. I still can't remember that sequence of words. I know it was a staple, horse, battery, something, but the order, no. So you would have to try many options before you get it right. So it's actually not a solution. And second of all, you have to type in 25 keystrokes to actually submit that form. Luckily, we have a solution for that, and that's a password manager. The idea is that you have a wallet or one place where you keep all your passwords, and in addition to keeping them in one place and hiding them between this one master password, which is probably this, because you can remember one thing like that, it does all these other things, which is awesome. But you still kind of, it doesn't help to this. If I can get access to my email, I can reset your password, my password, or if it's just one level of something that you know, it's currently we know pretty much every situation has either a hardware around way to approach it, or we have social engineering, which is what most people would do. Remember the weakest link that I told you about. If the door is closed, the window's open, I'm not going to go to the door because I don't have the key, but the window's open, right? So what about two-step? So am I saying that you should add another field to make it easier? Isn't probably good enough. You like password, one password, now what else? And that's actually one of the simplest solutions we have to guarantee that not only you have to know the password and your username, but you have to have something that you actually you can verify by your presence of that device or something that you have with you. And so we have Google Authenticator, which uses one-time passwords. So it's still passwords, right? But the idea is that the Google app, when you scan, have you seen or used this? How many people use this? Nice. I should be more like technical with you, crowd. Is everybody using this? But might be that not all of you know that when you scan that code, your website is that QR code. That's probably the only good use of a QR code is when you scan that, right? It's actually given a secret which your website will know and your phone will know. And the premise here is that me being the good guy and you being the bad guy, by owning or having my phone, you still can't you can just open that app and you can see it. And if the screen is locked, that's better, but still, we have to rely on the device to not give out that secret key. But we still have to type it in. And even with the banking thing, you just have to type it in. So since many of you have used the one-time password thing from your phone, I'm not going to show it. But this is the thing I was talking earlier. Here's an example of an identity card I got from a lady on the plane here, a Norwegian lady. So I took a photo of it. Hope she doesn't mind. But you see, the problem here is like, okay, nice, you logged in with this, but you need this wire. And I have to install drivers and hope it works for the presentation. So, I mean, it's nice, but it doesn't work for your everyday use. So, do we have, like, is there a way out? People used to think that these are the best things we have invented. In a sense, they actually are, because they have secure elements in them. This card here, I'm not going to use it anymore. Thank you. Where's the other piece? Basically, it's all plastic. The controller and the secure element is underneath these metal pads there. And it's so thin, it looks like paper. Yeah? Like you can't really notice that it's an electronic device. And it's magical that we have this device in place. And the idea is that whatever you put in there, or whatever that thing generates, you can't extract it. And that's the premise of these public key infrastructure. The whole setup is that you have something that can be kept secret. You can't put much data in there, but you can have that key that is used for signing, for example. So this is the best thing we have for proving your identity. It has actually a multi kind of step verification. It has the photo on there. It has all the holograms and whatnot to just see that it's indeed that card. And then it has a radio interface as well. Apparently I can beat this wherever I go, so you don't have to read or write down the data that's there, which is very good on border control. You don't have to write down the name of the person who entered the country. They just scan it. You have it in your passports as well, most likely. And the technology seems so good, but in one of the previous presentations, you saw that the complexity of it all makes it unusable, basically. There was a hope that every laptop would have this, a slot for these smart cards. But I think none of yours have, mine doesn't. I have the reader, which I have to plug in all in. So it was kind of a lost hope in a sense that it's not very user-friendly, so people are not going to use it. So is there a solution? What can we do? And apparently, a few years back, people got together and a few major players online, especially Google and all the stores, they realized that that is a problem. They can force people to enter these weird multi-case characters with numbers, symbols in front of them. People are not going to remember. It's going to ruin their user experience. It's going to be harder for them to purchase goods, or in case of Google, send emails. And since email is one of the attack vectors, you kind of have the chicken and egg situation. If you can easily log into your email, you can kind of attack different other things there. So the universal second factor is a standard that a FIDO alliance, you see how many acronyms we have? Second factor, OTP, FIDO. I mean, for me, I sometimes forget what they all are, but I can't tell my mom, I'll get a FIDO alliance key and like secure your email. Not going to work. So I think it's not a problem we have. It's not the usability of the system, but the whole concept and the way it is presented to us. And this solution, fortunately, I think pretty much solves it in a way, at least for the websites and for the online identity. And it was created in 2012 to found a standard. And to agree Google and Amazon on this, and Tesla and whatnot, not me with my WordPress blog on the same standard takes a lot of effort. So it's a multi-year thing that companies do in order to advance like the common good. And this is fantastic that this initiative, especially the universal second factor was started by only 3 companies. So there's Yubico, it's a company in Sweden. It's a very small company. They produce these security keys. Together with Google and NXP, which manufactures those secure elements, they got together and they developed pretty much the standard for this key. And the promise here is that the same way you're carrying your home key with you the whole time, you're going to keep this as secure as your home key. If I can get access to your home key, you have a problem. If I can get access to this one, you don't have that big of a problem because you still have to know your password, right? So the idea is really cool in the sense that it's very small, you can carry it around, and all you have to do is just insert it in your computer. So the standard, there are 2 standards. One is like completely without any device. You're able to authenticate. So your iPhone would have the stuff that's in here. It would do for on the websites when you just visit a website and request that authentication. It would use that secure element on your device to actually do it. But since we can't agree, Apple and all the other manufacturers, to put in the same chips and devices in there, you have to come up with something that is going to good start, and that is this key. So, and you see this part of FIDO Alliance. The cool thing about this is it's not only a USB key. You see that, like the radio, RSS icon in there. So that means that it's also available over NFC. And Android at the moment is actually able to read and authenticate as a second factor using these keys. The standard also includes support for Bluetooth, which I think is the direction that Apple is going. They're not going to have transmitting NFC elements in their phones. They have only passive elements there for the purposes of Apple Pay, and Bluetooth is something that is kind of shared among all. And the premise it just works. So you need only just the username and password, and then this. And somebody has to get it moving, right? So NXP produces the controllers, YubiKey does these, somebody has to push it. So Google Chrome has this market share of browser users. So they're the first ones to implement that. And let me show you a demo. This should work, right? Because that's the premise. So let's, let me switch over again. I have been sick for the past week, so excuse me, please. Oh, do you see it already? Cool, so it works only in Chrome. So there you go. While I'm here, I'm actually going to change my existing password to password, or 123456, 123456, because that's the most popular one they use. That's the actual live site, is not like DNS profile or anything. Just to prove, by the way, this is what you need for the identity card to work. That's all you need. It's the SHA-1 fingerprint of my public certificate. And the server sends it to WordPress. And that way, WordPress can verify that it was indeed me. So I'm using a plugin, which is interestingly was supposed to be merged in WordPress core. It was agreed to be merged in WordPress core if it is developed and kind of deemed sufficiently effective and working and good enough for WordPress core. Because WordPress cares about user security just like Google cares about their users and effectively clients. It would be awesome if WordPress had that built in by default. But this is a plugin that I'm using. Unfortunately, it will not be merged in core until after 4.5, which is summer this year, because of all the issues that I talked about previously, and some of them I'm going to talk about now. But let me go back to the password. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, okay, so what do? Oh, okay. You see, WordPress makes it really hard. Like, you have to try to enter this, which is a good thing. It's like, that's the way we can solve it. So that the password's there. I'm going to log out now. So this is going to be two-factor authentication. So the first step is you have to know the password, which you already know. We all know. You can go there and try it. It should get you to this step. It says insert your key and tap your security key. The important bit here is tap the key, because tapping it detects your presence. One of the major kind of problems with these cards is that if you leave it in, it's still, the browser still remembers your authentication, like your credentials basically. If I close my laptop, remove my card, and go to have coffee, if you come here, you open it up, and you try to log in again, if I haven't closed the browser, which destroys that session, you'll be able to log in, which is one of the reasons this is not used for that. And when people kind of came up with the standards for this, they wouldn't think that you would want to use it for something like that as a login mechanism where you want to go in and out, and you can make that mandatory. So where we are, okay, went back to home. So let me insert it. I have to take this out. Okay, I pressed it and I'm in. That's all I need. You don't have to look up the code in your phone. You just have that in and you press it and tap it. The awesome thing is that Chrome is the only browser, unfortunately, that supports it. But we have other services, apart from your website, that also support it. And let me drag that back. No. Oh, that's it. Yeah, exactly. So that was the demo. And I'm in. So Stina is the founder of Yubico, and that's the company that produces these things. And together with Google and all the standardization effort behind it, I think it's the future of basically two-step authentication that is simple, easy to use, and is understandable by people. Because all you have to have is a key, just like your Chrome key. It's easy to tell somebody that all you need is this key. You don't need to install an app or anything else. So that's cool. And that's actually a Swedish company. They're, I think, based both in Sweden and US, but they're producing these things and they're selling like cupcakes because the business is successful and people need this and people want to use it and implement that. So I think it's just a time until we actually see it used more widely than it currently is. So at the start of the talk, I mentioned something about the WordPress core and the feature plugin. So you have the links there. When I was involved in development of that plugin because I got interested in all the cryptography stuff and encryption and identity, and that is a very kind of sensitive subject where a lot of people have these doubts that you can go like you can never go low on security. You have to go full on, basically. If you're implementing something, you can't like leave things out. You have to be really hard on that. And when the initial plugin prototype was built, we actually had one of the meetings, core meetings in that Slack channel. There were people from support forums, the volunteers, were invited to kind of share their opinion on what the possible kind of problems are with that plugin. And what they said is like, people are going to lock themselves out. And I was thinking, yes. And unfortunately, it is yes, because it takes an extra effort to make your identity secure online. And it's for a project like WordPress, which has such a big market share, you can't put something in the core where people are going to be, like the majority of people are going to go to their admin site, to their profile, going to say, oh, there's like two-factor authentication. Nice, let's enable that. Oh, there's some QR code. what is that for? Oh, it's gone. Can I see it again? No, because it's secure. And it's shown one time. That's the only option you have to store it in your phone, right? And boom, they log out, and they have enabled the two-factor authentication, like blah, 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 my old password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was like, oh, enter your code. Oh, wow, nice. And that's when they go to the forums, then somebody says, okay, you have to FTP to your server, and then like put a constant in there. Like, how do you solve this, right? It's a very hard problem for an open source project of that magnitude, like WordPress is. And that is in a part illustrated also by the number of plugins that we have when you search for two-factor on the plugin repository. It's 130, almost 130 plugins. And for me, as a developer, I'm a full-time WordPress developer, I'm looking at that page, I don't know what each of them do, or which one is best, or which one you should do. I was like, I should come up with a suggested list of plugins that you can install and try. And unfortunately, I wasn't really, because I didn't read through the code base of all of them, or at least the most popular ones, and I couldn't come up with that list. So all I'm recommending you is the feature plugin, which is just called simply two-factor, and that's an exact user experience problem again, right? So this whole thing is like terrible. But luckily, you can use these keys and the phone thing, right, on many other services. And there's a website called twofactorauth.org, which kind of lists all of them, which you can, when you get this key, you don't have to use it on your site, but you could start using it on Gmail, for example, or your hosted apps, that is. Dropbox supports it, GitHub supports it, which is especially for developers who your code is there, you don't want anybody to be able to kind of tamper with that. So, and I got in touch, 'cause I bought 3 for myself, these YubiKeys. They're called, the one that you see with an NFC thing with the RSS logo. That is a YubiKey Neo. It's a bit more expensive, it has the NFC functionality. It turns out I don't need it because I don't have an Android phone. Then you have these things. They're available on Amazon. They're called the generic P1, basically FIDO device. If you just Google or search on Amazon, you're going to find them. They're much cheaper, but instead of pressing the button on these, what you have to do here, you have to unplug it and plug this in every time it asks you to authenticate with it. So it's a bit of a trouble, and I ended up not using them, so that's it. And so when I was preparing for this talk, I reached out to YubiKey, and I told them, what if people kind of are interested in this and want to get themselves a YubiKey? And they were gracious enough to give us this coupon code, which gives you almost 50% off on their store, and you can get these. But, and there's limited 100, so that when it reaches 100, this is no longer valid. So if you want to get it, probably get it soon. And they were also kind of good enough to send me 3 of them for audience members. So I'm going to give them out to, after the questions, to whatever question I kind of fancy, and to people that don't have it yet. So if you can come up with, if you have something you want to ask, please do. And if you just want the key as well, you just raise the hand, I have no issue with that. So my name is Kaspars, a blog there, my email is that, and I work at XWP. Just on my shirt. We're all remote workers. We're looking for great people who know WordPress. I have a baby at home. I work from home. I live there with my wife, and it's awesome, basically. I know many of you work from home, and that is, I highly recommend you to kind of try that. It's a life-changing experience, just like the universal second factor. And then the second thing is this number gibberish there. It's my PGP key part of it, like fingerprint thing. So if you want to send me an encrypted email, you can look up by my email, my PGP key, my public key, and you can sign that email and encrypt that email, but this is how you verify that it's me. Again, because I'm here and I told you it's mine, you know that it's mine, right? So, so that's it. Thank you for your time, and looking forward for your questions.